Welcome back to CasualBiasRugby. First weekend of the Rugby Championship, done and dusted. We are here with my brother, Let's Talk Sport, Cedric, the All Black supporter. Who better than after history has been made or history repeats itself to get back on? Cedric, my man, how are we feeling after round one, especially focusing on the All Blacks?
Yeah, it was rough, but you could kind of sense, it was gonna be a long, rough night for the All Blacks, especially after that first phase. You could just kind of see Argentina. They just looked really good, and we were quite lucky not to let on a try within the first minute or two. Like Burton Barrett just happened to be there, and then from that they just kind of set the tone. The whole game, the attack I thought was really good. Defensively, they were stopping the All Blacks. I thought their lineouts were good, and there wasn't a scrum up until the 60th minute, which was crazy.
I think that had a massive impact on the game, because obviously New Zealand probably went into this game knowing how it played out in the World Cup. Obviously, it's a bit of a different look, right? But you don't lose your physicality, and I've been very vocal in terms of we've always known how good the speed of play is of New Zealand. Like you've always focused on that, but the level of physicality that you're at the moment, like I don't know. It's a massive threat at the moment, and to have your boys not really draining them with the scrum, with the breakdown, and those type of things, that plays a big role. I kind of think that played into the Argentinian hands perfectly, and they had the perfect game plan. I mean, Pablo Matera. Let's just say how good that guy was yesterday. He was absolutely incredible.
He was an absolute unit. For me, I felt like every time we went to ground, there was always a chance of us getting turned over. It just seemed like Argentina were always there. We were always too slow to get around the rucks. And like you said, Pablo was an absolute menace, and he was thriving in the moment. Definitely built for the bright lights because he was enjoying every minute of the day.
I mean, he was the standout, and obviously Augustine Creevy that came on. I mean, there was I don't know if you saw the picture, but there's like an elite photo of him just like on the ground through the legs of Tory Barrett and stuff. I mean, if that guy goes for prime minister of Argentina or president, he probably gets it with the way that he just came on with the impact, 40 years old or something like that. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. And we spoke about it like on a live yesterday. It's like you always know that they come out with emotion, but it kind of felt a bit different yesterday. Like it's kind of, obviously they've made history before in beating New Zealand in New Zealand, and then the next weekend lost by 53-3. But something about this team just feels a bit different with the way that they won yesterday, right? And I know we're only judging it off one game, but last time was kind of like relief, and this time it's like now we have to kick on. Like it's happened before, we can't let it slip again. Going into next weekend, like what's your initial thoughts going into that? Like, do you feel like you guys should be bouncing back next week, or do you think there's a threat that this could happen twice in a row?
I felt like after the two tests against England, those were like our toughest tests, and we would have gone into this one kind of like, okay, now we know what this year kind of looks like, and then but after this game, I think there is a, I guess, slight scare that we could lose next week. In my opinion, I know everyone talks about Eden Park. We haven't lost there in ages and stuff, but the way the Lost Boomers played, it was just something a bit different. They seemed a lot more structured. They had a lot more like controlled flair. Like it wasn't like they were just throwing like passes just anywhere. But they just seemed really good. But next week I think it'll be a really great game. I honestly don't see us. If we do winning by a lot, like you said, when we lost to them, and then the next week we won 52-3, and that was kind of like, oh, that one must have been like a fluke. But I think things next week, I think it'll be a lot different than how it played out before. So.
Yeah, obviously, people have been talking about the record of New Zealand in Wellington at the moment. Like I think it's like one in the last 7. Right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I needed to change the emblem. I saw it was on my podcast thing there. So I just had So obviously you have that record, but then it just makes it an equal playing field because obviously you have the Eden Park record as well. So I mean, but if there's you won't lose that record to this Argentinian team in my opinion, just yet. I think you have to be insane to go and win at Eden Park. Like, obviously, a big factor as well is like the crowd wasn't sold out in Wellington, so it was kind of like they didn't feel like the atmosphere is against them, and New Zealand didn't necessarily have the backing that they would, because it's a big stadium, and if you only put out 25,000 people there, like, it's not that loud. Like, obviously, if you have a 25-seater stadium and it's 25,000 people there, like, the noise feels crazy. But when you have a massive open stadium, that noise just gets nullified. It goes out of the window. So, I mean, I said it in a video yesterday, and I was like, I didn't see too many flaws with New Zealand necessarily. Like, there was unforced errors. It's not that like the system wasn't running or anything like that. But Scott Robinson came out after the game, and I hope you saw it, where he's like, we are training stuff and it's not happening on the field. And that's not a good look for a coach to come out and say that, like, first game out. So I probably think you guys are in for a big scolding, and then you smash them next weekend. Like, I just feel like a proper New Zealand performance is on the cards after these past 3 games that you had. Would you agree with that? Like, at some point, it all has to click, at least for one game.
I think it definitely will click. I'm just not so sure if it is next week, because I thought the game that we would click would have been the game that just happened. But it just seemed like, I mean, they didn't play bad.
No, not at all.
Argentina were just a step above it. So.
I mean, if you guys didn't have that 2 fumbled passes at the end of the game where they went and scored from, we would have probably been talking about New Zealand really grinding out a victory, and that is what good teams are made of. Like, that's always the narrative. And we had the same with when South Africa played against Ireland. All of a sudden, we're thinking about how negative the South African team is. But if he missed that final drop goal, right, which we always see players miss drop goals. Like, if that didn't go over it, we talk about the great comeback from South Africa to come back from 16 points down. So, you can't just say it's all doom and gloom and negative, because you scored a beautiful try there through Sam Darryl on debut, like proper All Blacks rugby. I mean, this is a good Argentinian team. Like Contempomi that came in, he had massive impact at the Leinster squad from Ireland, right? While they were going and winning everything. So it's a good coach. This is a fired up Argentinian team. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom, as I've seen in some comment sections. I don't think you bottled it at all. Like, at some point, you're going to have a game where there's unforced errors, and you just struggle to find your feet. But I wouldn't look into it too much. Like, the only way up from here, obviously, only way is up from here. I mean, it is what it is. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add to the All Blacks game before we move on to the Wallabies?
I was going to ask, did you have any standouts overall from each team, or from the Argentinian team in particular?
Well, obviously, the Lucies of Argentina is insane, right? Like, Pablo Matera. Before the game, I didn't think Pablo Matera will have the greatest game. Like, I thought if there was going to be one standout player, it's going to be Juan Martín Gonzalez. He is absolutely insane. He is so good. But then Pablo Matera comes out. The way that Santi Carreras just controlled the game. Do you reckon Damian McKenzie will find his feet come next weekend? Because he got stepped into yesterday. Right? He got left for absolute dead. Like,
that was pretty bad, because that winner, he's quite rapid, and then when I saw him get the break, I was like, okay, he's covering it, then left foot, right foot, and I saw Damian slip. I was like, oh no,
it's not a good look. I mean, put it on a poster. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. Yeah. So, and then like for New Zealand, I don't really know. Like, I think there's, in my opinion, and I said it before and I meant it with all respect in the world, Damian McKenzie is a great player, right? Compared to D-Mac, I do not think, compared to Richie Mo'unga, he's not at that level. And obviously, Richie Mo'unga, in my opinion, is by a country mile the best 10 in the world. Like, to lose him and know he's not available only because he's playing abroad,
because of where he's playing, it's frustrating.
That's a tough pill to swallow. And I said it with the most respect in the world, like, Damian McKenzie kind of reminds me of Elton Yankees. Now, just hear me out, because it sounds horrible. But like I've said it before, Elton Yankees at the Lions he looked like a generational talent. That's how good he was with the Lions. Carried that team, creativity, just just really controlled and bossed the game when South Africa was still in the Super Rugby. But coming to international level, you'd think, what is this guy doing, right? Like, what is he doing? And I'm not thinking the same with Damian McKenzie at international level, but I still believe that you should have a different 10. I just don't think he does it yet at the international level from an outside perspective. Obviously, you guys see him a lot more, but I just think he's brilliant for the Chiefs and the Super Rugby system fits him perfectly. But come to international level where the game is tight, you've got that rush defense. It's just not clicked for me as yet, and I can't understand for the life of me why Billy Proctor is not your outside center. Those are the two standout things for me for you guys.
Yeah, I think in my mind, I spoke to Ella too about this. We see him as a game breaker, like that's kind of his role. So I think I'm just giving him a chance to try fit into that 10 role, and obviously filling in the shoes of Richie Mwanga, who is probably the best first five in the world. It's quite hard, but I always see him as like this guy who can either like come off the bench the last 20-25 minutes, like
utility back,
and just open up the game, and just that's how I kind of see him. And when he did, he was absolutely phenomenal. But as of now, he just seems a bit behind. And about like you, Billy Proctor, hopefully he gets a shot soon, because not too bad in that Fijian team. I know a lot of people would say it's against Fiji, but I think he's been playing well this year. So.
Yeah, listen, and I've been seeing a couple of boys like talk about it on the breakdown, right? Like I follow that show of you guys, and like he was a standout 13, and the combination between him and Jordie Barrett just fits so well at the Hurricanes. And I've said it for a long time that Rico Ioane is obviously class, right? But I still see him as a winger playing on outside center. Like he can play on the outside center, but he's a better winger. He's not got that creativity that you necessarily need. And your 13 should always be known as a workhorse, right? Like they do a lot of work defensively. They do a lot of work at the breakdown, and obviously a lot of work at the attack. And creativity-wise, like I just think Billy Proctor suits that so much better, in my opinion. And then I'm just like, I just go. My 10 would be Beauden Barrett and my 15, Stephen Perofeta. I just think like that would be the obvious decision in my point from my perspective. And then D-Mac goes on to player 23. When the game starts opening up, the boys are tired. You saw with this, obviously you didn't have a lot of scrums, but like to set a scrum in 30 seconds, the line out has to be done in 30 seconds. Like you see how that eats away at the body. Like you are tired souls there at the end of the game. That suits Damian McKenzie to a T. And you can put him on 10, you can put him at 15. It doesn't matter. Like he will find a way to make an impact. That's kind of just my perspective on that.
Yeah, would you agree? You pretty much summed it up. I've had this debate at Riku at 13 for a while, but I've kind of just kept it to myself. I kind of thought like, because his rookie year in the All Blacks, he was like, in my opinion, like the best in the world, right? Just game breaking. He was so fast.
Incredible.
Defensively, any winger that would get a runaway, he chased him down. And then for him to, because he wanted to go into 13, and I was like, I understand you played it previously, like back in high school and stuff, but I was just like, if you're doing so well in one position, like why would you want to try? And then, I guess they kind of stuck with it. But like you personally, I think Rico is a winger, but Razor sees otherwise. So.
The thing is, obviously, like you guys have always had standout, like brilliant wingers, and just because you have a lot of good wingers doesn't mean you put another winger at a different position. Like, I know a lot of people have been talking about Will Jordan at 15. I just think, like, keep Stephen Perofeta there. Get a guy that can actually keep creativity-wise and everything to put Will Jordan through the gaps. But that's a discussion for another week. Hopefully, if we get you on for next weekend, you come back with a bit more of a smile talking about the All Blacks. But now,
definitely,
let's talk about South Africa versus the Wallabies. You mentioned that you watched that game, and I've been pretty vocal that I said like the Wallabies aren't going to be as bad. Like I know they just played against Wales that are shit, and they played against Georgia, but obviously getting a couple of wins beyond your back and just like pushing you forward. You've got Joe Schmidt, very good coach. We saw the impact that he made at Ireland and at New Zealand when he came in. Just got played off the park.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a rough game, man. It was funny because going into it, I was like, watch Peter step to he's gonna have an incredible game. And he did. He took like 50 carries, him along with Evan, just tiring out the defense. And then first five Sasha, that first kick he missed, I was like,
get money back.
Yeah, get money back, like the nerves, and then seemed to cool down. But yeah, this South African team, they were just far too good across area. I guess, and it was tough for Australia. You could see like they're trying their best to get into it. I thought Noah Lolosio had a pretty rough game. Trying his best to direct them around the park and all, but overall South Africa was just too strong. I thought it was funny seeing I think it was the first comp when Chislin was putting the ball in. I was like, oh, what do they have going on here? But that was really cool. And like I predicted, South Africa just too strong.
That's what you love to see with Tony Brown coming in. When you have someone with the likes of Tony Brown coming in and you want to kind of change the whole way that we attack, you have to give him the reins to say, listen, okay, we're gonna risk it a bit and we're gonna try something different. You have to give him like freedom to implement what he wants to do. Like there's no point in saying, okay, we only want to do physicality and then here and there do that, because then the system won't work, right? You have to kind of set up the eventual moves that you want to pull off. And I love the fact that we're doing that. The only issue that we have is that we can't secure, for the life of me, a basic line-out maul. Like we do these variations, right? And it works perfectly. I don't even care if we score from a normal driving maul, but the fact that we just somehow always get turned over with a basic maul is the most frustrating thing in the world. Like it's so annoying. But obviously we are happy because this is only the fourth time that we've won in Brisbane. Our record is absolutely terrible. So that is good. But from a Wallabies perspective, their second half was a lot better. Right? Like you could obviously say, okay, South Africa dropped off and stuff, but you have to give credit to them. Like they turned it up a bit and they played a lot of them the second half in our half 5 meters out and stuff. Do you think there's any like positive takeaways for the Wallabies like from that game?
I think the second half they did manage to slow down the Springboks attack a bit. Because after the first half I was like, okay, it's gonna be like 45 nil, 50 nil. But I guess in terms of positives, it's hard for me to say right now, just because I was taking notes throughout the game, and a lot of it was just like South Africa scored here, line break from South Africa here. I guess them scoring a try could be a positive, but then it's like South Africa had boys in the burn, and it's like I don't know. It's tough for me to kind of take away positives for them. What do you have to say?
Like the thing is, like from the South African perspective, we were so happy with the performance, attacking wise and defensively. Like in the first half, obviously they kicked the ball away a lot, but when they actually tried to run the ball, they went nowhere, absolutely nowhere. And could you say like, okay, fine, that was they didn't have any cohesion or whatever, or do you just put that down as good South African rush defense? Like they just went back and back and back. And then their clearing kicks or their up and unders to kind of give them some front football wasn't good enough. Like it was Jake Gordon, obviously he made some good cover defense tackles and stuff. But it's bad that he had to make cover defense tackles in the first place, right? And the eyeballs weren't good enough. Sasha there at the back or Vili, just like so many uncontested balls. Like we just had freedom. So the only negative from a South African perspective is like we had so many chances and only scored 33 points.
Yeah.
Way more than 21-0 after the first half. But overall, we are so happy with that. But the only thing that kind of scares me is if we continue to be as lackluster as we was in the second half, we might be in for a bit of danger come next weekend again. Like we hate being the favorites in a game. And when you have a dominant performance like this and you are favorites again and you see how that second half played out, I'm not a fan of that. But obviously, Siya Kolisi came out. By the way, it said Siya Kolisi, Australian captain. Disgraceful. He came out and said it was just a bit lackluster and we won't drop off next weekend again, which is massive for us going into that.
South Africa played really well. And like in terms of all the high balls that Australia were kicking, like a lot of them were uncontested, and then I just thought South Africa was so safe. They didn't drop one ball. Everything was getting like covered really quickly. But man, that try Curly Arundel scored when Krill got a break, that was pretty to watch.
Yeah, and once again from a very little pass, Villy, like people don't appreciate what Villy does, right? Like he's not your most flashy guy in terms of stepping a million people or whatever. Like you could put massive gaps in front of him. He does not take that gap, but he passes the ball to someone that takes that gap. Like he always finds a way to find his man. Let's wrap up on this video, and I just want to ask you, like, with the Wallabies, I just want to stay focused on them. Like, what would be their expectations going into the rest of this tournament? Like, do you think they somehow find their feet and a way to really get back into this tournament, or do they feel so down after that loss, and then they see Argentina, who's probably their biggest competition, right, in this tournament, and then they're like, oh shit, we in even more trouble now?
I think with a coach like Joe Schmidt, you can't be thinking negative at all. I think they've been able to see, like you pointed out, what he has done with Ireland and with the All Blacks, and you can see he was trying to like implement some stuff in their game plan. Obviously, it's hard to do against a team like South Africa, but I think next week onwards, Australia should be a lot better. But in my opinion, I think it'll be a similar score to what we saw against South Africa. But yeah, definitely shouldn't. They need to go game by game, not just think like now. Okay, we got a hiding. It's all over. Argentina, look how well they played against the All Blacks. They're gonna struggle. I think game by game they're gonna go into it like, okay, we can win this or win each moment. Like, the game's about moments, right? Just win each moment and just go from there.
Yeah, it will take time, right? Like, and it's the same with the All Blacks. When you have a total new coaching setup, like a couple of weeks isn't necessarily enough to get everything that you want. Like, obviously, you've got the foundation of the team that has played a lot of games together, but you're changing the system and the way that you want them to play, and it will take time. Like, obviously, this is only your third game. Now, yeah, you've had a couple of weeks, but that's not enough, right? Like, Rassie came into a South African team that literally lost to, I think it was Italy, right? Like, we were in shambles. We lost with 50 points against you guys. We lost it with 40 points against you guys as well, right? Like, and it didn't fix up immediately. Like, I think he had a record of like still 40 or 50%. So it takes time to kind of get that cohesion going. So I don't think there's too many downs. Like, you just take it day by day, as you said, take time. And then it'll figure itself out. Like, Joe Schmidt knows what he's doing. He's got the right players in there. Like, if you've been under Eddie Jones, he's just thrown everything under the bus. Like, it will take time to kind of rebuild it all. Anyway, but that brings us to the end. Is there anything that you kind of wanted to add? Tell the people where they can find you on socials. And then we'll put the links in the description.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. So, yeah, basically just on TikTok. My name, as you guys can see, is LetsTalkSport 13. Yeah, I just talk about a lot of sports, a lot of rugby, basketball, boxing, anything, Olympics, everything. But yeah, it was good being on this. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully next week I'll be smiling and I'll be happy we got to win. But I appreciate you getting me on. That was fun.
Yeah, of course. And then next week, even if you win, we'll probably talk about South Africa versus the All Blacks that will be coming up sooner as well, because that's rivalry. That's proper rivalry, the biggest rivalry in the sport. I mean, anyway, people, thank you very much for watching the video. As always, we do love and appreciate you guys, and we will see you next time. Thank you.